Theatre in the forest, not in the forest. You look as if you're actually in a forest at the moment, but there is no forest available to do the play in, is there?
No, this year it has to be a little bit different, Libby. We've thought long and hard about what to do. We were thinking about going out there and trying to do a socially distanced event, but it seemed very stressful with all the different rules and regulations, and keeping people safe has to be a big priority. So we've dreamt up something else with a difference for 1 year only.
You've gone big tech, I hear.
That sounds terrifying.
Well, yeah, there's words about green screens and people avatars and heaven knows what. How's it
Yeah.
going to work?
Well, it's sort of, I guess, small tech, but yes, it's something that we've gravitated towards because with our community groups, we've made a couple of movies on green screen over the last year, and they've gone really well. And then in lockdown, we tried out Jack and the Beanstalk for under fives on
Yeah,
green.
which worked brilliantly.
Yeah, it's great. So we sent the green screens to the actors' houses, and they'd already done the show, so they knew each other well and they knew the show well. And we worked it for screen, and we bring them together. I'm sure none of the under fives realised that they weren't together when they actually did it. And we had a lot of fun doing it, and also quite a lot of experimentation in what would work and what wouldn't work, and how to do it, and how to keep things in sync, because it's quite complicated and mind bending when you try to do it. But it worked really well, and so we decided that we would do something along these lines with Twelfth Night. Because I think we could just film the actors on the stage, but then they'd have to be socially distanced and it might be a bit flat. So with this, it enables us to get right in there. And there's lots of, and we were rehearsing this morning, there's lots of lovely scenes in Twelfth Night where people are watching other people doing things and hiding behind things. And we can get right in there for the close ups, and lots of lovely interaction between the actors and the audience, and looking straight into camera, which is so theatre in the forest because the audience are a big character for theatre in the forest. So we're convinced it's going to work.
So
It's a good one.
you're doing what Nicholas Heitner's doing with these wonderful sort of talking heads on television, where everybody's been at home. You know, although actually they put them all into the EastEnders set, but you haven't even had to do that. You've just done green screen. What will we see behind them then? Will we see a magical sort of 17th century forest or something completely different?
Something a bit different. Although it's like a magical island, really, isn't it? Twelfth Night. They turn up on this beach. Viola gets shipwrecked on a beach. So the first scene will. I keep having Southwold in my head. But and we might have some real beachscapes behind them. But I think as it goes along, it will morph into something that's much more of a drawn world, so that it feels as if Viola and Sebastian are being sucked into a kind of fantasy experience. And we're very fortunate. Katie Frost, who's our wonderful community director, started off as my assistant and is just amazing. Has very talented artist as well. She drew the backgrounds for Jack and the Beanstalk and is going to do the same thing with Twelfth Night. So
So we
we
might we might start on we might start with the poor Viola being shipwrecked and alone and thinking her brother's dead on Southwold Beach and all very sad. And gradually she's drawn into the court, and the court, the palace, Orsino's palace, is going to be something quite different, quite green screen and wild.
Well, yes, absolutely. I think Orsino and Olivia both have a beach hut each. And they're called Orsino and Olivia, obviously, as they would be. Yeah, so you get drawn into those and drawn into those worlds. And we're looking at sort of going back in time a little bit. So it's a sort of 1920s beach world. We were looking at beautiful vintage fairgrounds and that sort of thing. So it lends itself to certain events that happen later on in the play with Malvolio and
We'll
Malvolio.
talk about the play and some of the extraordinary devices you've done in a minute. But I just wanted to get to the important bit, which is, of course, the audience for Theatre in the Forest. How are we going to manage to be a Theatre in the Forest audience? It's all going to be online. Do we get a ticket? Will we be welcomed in the usual bonkers way?
Absolutely. So, yeah, people are encouraged to make a donation and then they can get a pass into the show. And we're going to have pre-show in the way that we do at Theatre in the Forest, which will start at 6 o'clock. So you'll meet the actors beforehand, as you always do in the forest. We really need people to buy into this and kind of, you know, make your own picnic and get yourself sorted out so that you feel as if you're going to theatre in the forest. And then we do our side of the bargain as well. So we'll have volunteers, our young people in t-shirts, as they always are, welcoming you in. And the actors are going to teach you some of the songs. We're even going to have a jazz band playing live so that we get a real sense of build-up of atmosphere before the show begins.
So we stick the laptop up in the kitchen at 6 o'clock, and all this stuff goes on, and then at 7:30 the actual play begins. But we're on this link the whole way through.
Yes, absolutely. It should be
fun. Yeah, and we've actually bought tickets. I should happen to say, in this case, we are actually going to buy tickets, aren't we, for that particular evening?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Good. All theatres need ticket sales. So anyway, Twelfth Night. It's a nice choice, isn't it? What drew you towards it? Because you needed something which was Shakespeare in the Forest, and also which you could cut down sharply. To give us this 90 minutes treat, which is a very sensible way to do it. So that's kind of 90 minutes, no interval treat. So how are you going to, what was it drew you to Twelfth Night especially?
Well, we'd already scheduled to do Twelfth Night this year, which we presumed we would be doing in the normal way. And fortunately, I think it does really lend itself to this format. So I have to cut the script down anyway for outdoor theatre because we don't want to be there all night long. But we've cut it down further in order to fit it into this space. And I think so much the relationships of the characters with the audience make it work very well on screen. So we've been identifying as we go along when they're talking to the audience and when they're talking to each other and when they go between the two. And I think that's going to make it special. Viola obviously has a really special relationship with the audience, so does Feste, but they all have moments.
How can you do a green screen distanced embrace, virtual embrace? Are we going to see the money shot when finally the right couples get together?
There are different ways of doing it. So I can put my arm around somebody who's not really there, and then we can actually place that person into their arm. I don't know, we might need to add a few sound effects with kissing. We can see the back of people's heads, so we can film it so we don't necessarily know what's going on. I think there's all sorts of things that we can do. We can make it. I think my aim is that people will forget that they're not together by the end.
You've done some wonderful bonkers cross-gender, cross-casting, cross-character parts, haven't you? One Malvolio. Scott Ellis is allowed to be Malvolio all alone, right? But you've doubled Olivia, the dignified, lovelorn, high lady, with the drunken twit Sir Andrew Aguecheek, played by the same person.
Yeah, and played by Fiz Waller, who's just amazing. And this morning we were rehearsing it and all in absolute hysterics at her. She's so inventive and brilliant. And we were going around talking, because obviously when you're doubling, you have to make the characters very distinct to each other. You have to have different physicality, different voices. Accents are really useful to make them very different. And I got to Fiz and I said, have you thought anything about Sir Andrew, where Sir Andrew might be from, or anything about the voice? And she just went, Australian.
Is he Australian?
None of us knew that whether she was actually serious or joking, as you kind of hardly ever do with Fiz. And it turned out she was serious, and we tried it out, and it was absolutely priceless. So
it's quite nice because Olivia, of course, is the great adored, object of love. But of course, Andrew Aguecheek has that wonderful line, I was adored once too. You should do it in Australian. I was adored once too.
Yeah, it worked really well.
And then you've doubled also Viola, our heroine, our sweet and grieving heroine searching for her brother, with Sir Toby Belch, who actually makes Andrew Aguecheek look like, sort of Jacob Rees-Mogg, and he's really a crude character. Is poor old Viola going to be a crude Toby Belch half the time?
Absolutely, she will. She's brilliant. Yes, it's Ailish Duff playing that part, who was the nurse in Romeo and Juliet last year, and everybody loved her out there. So she's a brilliant comic actress, and yeah, I've just been allowing them to go as far as they like with those crazy characters.
She's a brilliant comic actress, but can she be a heartbreaking Viola as well? That's a big ask, isn't it?
I think so, because I think actually, if you know Ailish, she's rather like Viola as a person. She's a really not she's not a big showy person at all. On stage, she's hilarious, but actually in life, she's a very subtle, quite quiet girl. And I think, yeah, it will work. It will
And we
work.
look forward to that. And we've got Romeo. We've got your glorious Romeo back, haven't you, Jack Hayden? Is he doubling as well? He is, isn't he?
Yeah, he's playing Sebastian and Mariah. So we've
Oh,
been
Mariah the cheeky maid.
yeah, we've been having a lot of fun with him playing Mariah this morning. That's been absolutely hilarious.
Romeo has taken to the cheeky maid role.
Yeah,
Yes.
Jack's very good at playing women. We often encourage him to do it.
You're a very rigorous director. You're sort of known for that. You know, you absolutely have everybody up to the mark all the time. Is that easy to do when you're directing in this rather curious, distant way? I mean, are you able to, do you feel your standards can be kept going?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I'm really, really lucky this time, because it's so important, and it's so important that the text is right and clear. And Scott Ellis, who's playing Malvolio, is somebody I've worked with a lot. He's the guy who played George Boleyn in Fall in Love in the reading that we did recently. And he's a brilliant Shakespeare expert himself. And we've been enjoying working together a lot recently. And he's now associate director on this show with me. So we've done some lovely text workshops with Scott leading them. And once we get to the filming, I can sort of be responsible for the actor's relationship with the audience, the way they're moving, the way we're working the shots, and the way the whole thing is working. And Scott can be there to just check out the text and make sure that the text is all accurate and clear as we go through. So we've taken that really, really seriously, and I've sort of divided myself and allowed him to really, really assist with that, which has been absolutely brilliant so far.
And I mean, I know I don't want to spoil any surprises, but Malvolio gets trapped in a cage and very cruelly treated by the rest of the cast. Are you going to force him to trap himself in a cage in his bedroom while you're green screening him?
We
will he shut him in a beach hut?
I think well, I'm thinking about a kind of vintage fun fair by the beach, by the seaside, and it could be that he gets trapped in a haunted house in there. So we're looking at that and thinking a little bit Scooby-Doo about the whole thing.
This is why I like doing these interviews really, really early on in the process. I like to throw in the difficult questions. And just finally, music. If it be the Food of Love, play on, you know, almost the opening words. You have Feste. What's the music like? What's the tone of the music? Is it in period for this sort of 1920s Southwoldy feeling?
Yes, it's sort of in two. I think the music divides into two. So you've got Feste, who sings his own stuff, and he's beautiful guitarist and singer, Matt Henson, and we've been giving him got a slightly sea shanty, slightly nautical feel to it. His lovely little songs that Feste sings, but then the more group numbers and the ensemble numbers have got more of a 1920s feel. We've got Ain't We Got Fun is a big number halfway through the show, for example. And yeah, I'm very lucky in the musicians that I've got in the cast. Jack Hayden is also absolutely brilliant, and the two of them have been arranging the music, and it has to be organised quite a long time in advance because different people laying down different tracks and singing different parts and editing that and bringing it all together. But music is such an important part of Theatre in the Forest. Our audiences love it and they expect it, so they shouldn't feel they're going to be shortchanged here. We're going to put lots and lots of time into getting the music just right.
Mm. So 1st of August, right? 1st of August. And how early can people get onto the website and book all these tickets and get organised for it?
Straight away. It's open now, and yeah, if people can go on there, and it's a pay what you like system. So it starts at £10, but we're asking people to pay for as much as they can afford, really, because obviously we're taking a massive hit in income by not being able to do theatre in the forest, and the revenue from that project goes into supporting all our community work. So by going on there and making a donation and joining us on the 1st of August, people can really, really help us fill that gap.
And if people buy a ticket and then miss it on the 1st of August because their granny turns up and wants to talk about something completely different, what do we do? Might we be able to organise to see it later?
Yeah, it will be available throughout August, but we're encouraging people to join us on the 1st, so that we kind of feel that we're all coming together, even if it's virtually. But then afterwards we will allow it to be available for a month, so that if you couldn't do it on the 1st, you can have your picnic on another evening and do Theatre in the Forest another time.
Yes, you really do feel we should be picnicking in the course of this.
I think it's probably compulsory, yeah.
Okay, righto, sausage rolls on order. Joanna, good luck with it. Good luck to all the cast. I shall look forward to it very much. I shall be there.
Thank you so much.